Don't you have your laptops? You have your laptops in your room? Yeah, okay, okay, no problem for today. However, for next week we'll deal with some real computer programming. So if you are possible, then you like to bring your laptop next week and 2 weeks later. Okay. So how many centers?
Those guys are making jokes with me. They're giving message. You look serious.
Hi.
Come on.
Hi. Do you hear me?
Listeners, come on. No problem. Come on. Yes. Hi, guys. Okay.
Hi everyone. Hello. Do you hear me? I'm really sure. Okay, if you can hear my voice, then please put your hands. Shake your hands. Okay, I see. Yeah. Ah, really? Okay, then just talk very broad thing today. Okay, today I'm going to talk about data and artificial intelligence for nuclear medicine, and this is just for the introduction. So I'll just talk about why we need data science and artificial intelligence for nuclear medicine, particularly for the all over the world, because we have some common interests, nuclear medicine. However, we, both of you and me have are put in the different situations. So maybe I think you need to learn about this data science and artificial intelligence briefly to use your data in your hospital and in your country. So it's my purpose for this lecture. So this is planned for 3 weeks. For today, we'll talk about why we need to know data and deep learning as a nuclear medicine specialist. Maybe you are in here are nuclear medicine physician or chemistry, and anyway, we need some knowledge about deep learning and the data science. If even if you don't know about the Python or other types of the computer language. And anyway, I'll introduce some Python language using Colab. This is supported by Google. And next week, I'll talk about more details about the deep learning as a basic knowledge. It's related to the statistics or some types of computer science, but it's not difficult, I think. And recently, deep learning techniques are widely used in the all over the world and all over the industry and industry field. So it's something like Excel or some other types of statistical packages. So it's not difficult to use in your data. So I deal with some real data as MNIST, which is handwriting letters to identify. And in the third week, I will talk about some deep learning technical application using some real data, using FPCIT spec and some image resolution. So today I just deal with some broad scope in introduction of the deep learning and data science. As you know, nuclear medicine is affected by several types of the medicine and other types of the sciences. For example, nuclear medicine is really closely related to some clinical science such as oncology, neurology, and cardiology. And sometimes we have some competitive law with the laboratory medicine or radiology or pathology or sometimes radiation oncology. And nuclear medicine is technology dependent on the technology. So many types of the science such as biology and chemistry and technology, all the technology can affect the nuclear medicine. And other types of general science community and social trend also affect the nuclear medicine. So we always talking about the current of the nuclear medicine, such as theranostics or some PAT or new PAT tracers. However, all of these new PAT tracers or theranostics agents are developed for the needs in the clinical medicine. And these needs are initiated from the new science and new technology. So this science, the trends of science and technology are future direction of the nuclear medicine. So in the introduction, I'd like to talk about the trends of the nuclear medicine related to the recent medicine and science and technology. So let's think about nuclear medicine. I extract the keywords of nuclear medicine using the natural language processing analysis, and I extract the words from the Journal of Nuclear Medicine and other top 10 nuclear medicine and molecular imaging journals. And frequency of words was analyzed and compared the words between the 2018 and 7 years ago. So this is the today's keywords of the nuclear medicine. And this is the keywords of the 2010 and 2011. As you can see in here, previously, just around 7 years ago, all of us deals with PET, and particularly for FDG PET. And all other words are found in very low frequency. However, nuclear medicine fields are enlarged. The fields became much more bigger than previously. So we deal with several types of new PET tracers, such as PSMA, and this molecular means molecular imaging, and we deal with therapy, maybe related to theranostics. And these words are markedly increased word for 10 years. And this is increased and high frequency words in the nuclear medicine, Journal of Nuclear Medicine, and other top 10 journals is PSMA, PRRT, dotatate, immune, technology mutation, molecular, and amyloid. So from this data, I selected 10 keywords of the nuclear medicine for the current concept, current era. So I grouped these keywords, as you can see here. Therapy, theranostics, and PSMA are the current hot keywords of the nuclear medicine. It's related to PRRT, and the PSMA is recent papers show some effectiveness of PSMA PAT and PSMA therapy. So one of the hottest word is the PSMA. And another emerging word is big data and artificial intelligence. Recent paper on Journal of Nuclear Medicine and European Journal of Nuclear Medicine and other types of radiology, and even more some other broad scope journals such as Nature, Science, and Cell published several papers related to big data and artificial intelligence. So these two words are emerging keywords of the nuclear medicine and other all of the medical fields. And another keyword is immune. It's related to immune checkpoint therapy and other immunotherapy for the cancer. So other types of immune therapy such as CAR T therapy are applied to the patient, and other PET or other types of immunoPET supported these types of immunotherapy. So this is another current trend of the nuclear medicine. And another important words are amyloid and tau. This is related to neurodegenerative disorders. And amyloid imaging is become as a clinical routine practice in Korea and other countries. So amyloid PET is one of the most common words in the nuclear medicine. And listen to emerging target of the neurodegenerative disorder, particularly for the Alzheimer's disease, is tau protein, because several types of immunotherapy for the dementia, Alzheimer's dementia, was failed, which targets the amyloid aggregation. So next target have been developed as a translational research, and one of the leading target is tau protein. And another emerging keywords are nanoparticles and molecular imaging. It's a cultural mega-trend of the nuclear medicine because many researchers deals with molecular imaging and nanoparticles as a translational research. So we wanted to find clinically applicable nanoparticle. So I think these 5 concepts are current. current new trends of the nuclear medicine. And I'd like to share some my idea of big data and artificial intelligence. So actually, artificial intelligence and big data are affect all domains of the medical field. For example, this is one of the first first medical paper which deep learning applied to. This Stanford researcher group collected more than 100,000 of skin region images, and they used some deep learning models named the convolutional neural network, Inception version 3, which is the winner model of the ImageNet challenge, which is the image recognition task for the natural images. And they apply this model to the skin lesion images to differentiate malignant skin lesions to benign lesions. And they shows that the performance of this deep learning model was much higher than the dermatology specialists, which means that in Korea or some other countries like Japan, dermatologists are very common. So if patients have some question about their skin lesions, they need to access the hospital. However, some big countries such as China or some US, patients in rural area, they cannot meet dermatology specialists easily. So if that case, this algorithm can easily apply to your computer or even in your smartphone. So just take a picture of your skin lesion, and the algorithm can analyze your skin lesion data, and they can decide you need to go to hospital or not. So this is very innovative. And other deep learning models have been applied to several types of medical fields. For example, Google researchers applied deep learning models to the ophthalmological images. This is fundoscopy imaging, and one of the most common indication for the fundoscopy imaging is the diabetic retinopathy. So they wanted to differentiate diabetic retinopathy from the normal fundoscopy images, and they shows that the deep learning shows much higher performance than ophthalmologists. And they incorporated their algorithm to some fundoscopic hardware, and they approved for FDA. So Google's wanted to apply this hardware combined with this algorithm to many rural areas in the USA. And other types of the deep learning models have applied to the medical images such as MRI, CT, and simple X-rays as well as PET. So we need to know about these types of the algorithm because these changes are really fast. Because all of the models are open, so you can easily access these types of the models, and you can develop your models using these types of the prototype. So you can apply these models to your data very easily. So many researchers use these types of the deep learning models to their data to define some medical problems and to solve their current clinical problems. So many science and technology trends are related to the big data and AI. This is top 10 news of the top journals in Nature and Nature Sisters journals in science last year. And one of the biggest news in the Nature and Science was the CRISPR-Cas9 system last year. And around 3 and 4th biggest news was the big data mining. And this is the top 10 technology from the MIT Technology Review, selected from the last year. And among top 10 technologies, 3 technologies are related to artificial intelligence. So first one is AI for everybody. This is related to easy prototyping of the artificial intelligence, like Excel or some statistical software packages. And during neural network is related to generative model, and Babelfish earbud is related to the translation, automatic translation between some different languages. So these top 10 technologies are the 3 among top 10 technologies. 3 are related to the artificial intelligence technology. So this is a dual neural network. It's the second boom of the deep learning. As you can see here, these face images all of these face images are generated. It's computer generated imaging. So we don't know who he is and who she is. Anyway, computer can generate these realistic images. So this technology can apply to the medical fields, apply to the medical images. So this is one of my paper published in last year. This is structural MRI generation from the PET, amyloid PET, to quantify the amyloid deposit in the gray matter. As you know, for the accurate quantification of the amyloid PET, we need structural MRI because simple amyloid PET cannot differentiate the gray matter and white matter. So for the accurate quantification, we need structural T1 MRI. However, all of the patients cannot affordable for this PET and MRI. So I developed a model to generate the structural MRI using the T1 MRI, using such kind of technique. And as you can see here, this is real MRI, and the third line is a pseudo MRI generated from the amyloid PET. And as you can see here, it's somewhat blurred, but however, it's very similar to the structural MRI. And using them, I successfully quantified the amyloid PET amyloid PET very accurately compared to the MR-based quantification. And another social trends are, one of the biggest social trends are open science. It's related to open and development. Let's think about the classical journal systems. We usually write some manuscript and submit to the specific journals such as Nature, Science, or Journal of Nuclear Medicine, or Nuclear Medicine and Molecular Imaging. However, these journals are closed system. We need to pay for read such kind of paper. However, recently some open movement generates some new journals. These types of journals. This is preprint journals. This is not reviewed by the peer reviewers, but they can open their manuscript in the web system. So previously blind peer review and blind peer review moved to the open peer review. If we upload your paper for the public, then public scientists can assess your paper, and they can have some critics your papers, or sometimes they read your papers more frequently. So this closed system changed to the open system, and online preprint system are very widely accepted in many other domains, such as computer science or chemistry, or sometimes some medical fields or biology fields. So these types of the online journal system, preprint journal system, change many things, because this archive is one of the most biggest open journal system. They show that the paper submitted to the archive, they shows much more citation number than conventional journal system. So public evaluation instead of peer review has some can change the scientific fields, because public evaluation has much stronger evaluation than the peer review system, blinded peer review system. And furthermore, database are changed. We performed some clinical trials, then only the researchers have their data. However, data are public because the patient's data are important resources for the science. So many movements changed this concept to the open science. So many scientific domains opened their data after the research or ongoing researches for clinical trials or other types of researches. For example, ImageNet is a data set of the natural images. It's more than 100,000 of images of the natural image pictures, and they labeled with their objects. For example, some photography with the cat. So then ImageNet data have their image. They have some pairs of image and the label. And this labeled ImageNet big data is a start point of the deep learning boom. And many other biological fields open their data. For example, for omics data, all of the omics data are opened after the journal publication. So many transcriptome and genome data are opened in some platforms such as Gene Expression Omnibus or the Cancer Genome Archive, GCGA. And for imaging data, some groups opened their data such as Alzheimer's disease neuroimaging initiative. It's publicly open data, so if you want to access this ASNI data, which includes PET, MRI, and other types of biochemical studies, are opened so you can access this data easily in your country or in other world, all over the world. And even more, some types of the algorithms are open. For example, GitHub has some open source platform. In many researchers upload their codes on the GitHub system. So if you want to deal with some deep learning or other types of machine learning algorithms, you can easily download the source code from the GitHub. And Google also opened their AI platform TensorFlow because it's freely downloaded from the internet. Google opens this TensorFlow because they want to all researchers uses TensorFlow. It's the power of the Google because open data makes many researchers depends on their platform. So every researcher depends on TensorFlow in the artificial intelligence fields. So this era of the open science, it becomes platform work. It's related to it is involved in many industrial fields such as car industry. Many previous cars uses oil and gasoline engine. However, electrical system are become another platform. And as you know, Tesla opens their platform to the all over the world. So electric car wanted to become a winner of the platform war. And as you know, iOS and Android is another platform war of the smartphone fields. And this platform war can be applied to our medical fields because nuclear medicine has many competitive fields such as diagnostic radiology or laboratory medicine or another non-invasive technology, or sometimes chemotherapy is competitive for the theranostic approach. So we need to win this from this platform war. So if you want to access some data as open data, you can use these types of the platform, such as Cancer Imaging Archive. It's a platform for the open imaging. They include CT and MRI data for more than 10,000 cases. And PET data is around, there are 300 to 500 cases for PET data. And NIH also collects some numerous imaging data, including the CT scans, and they labels more than 32,000 of cases were labeled with the chest CT and abdomen CT scans. And there are more than genomic data than other imaging data. You can access TCGA data, which is more than 10,000 of the transcriptome and genome data for the several cancer types. And there are more than data you can find in the GEO, Gene Expression Omnibus, and GTEx, which is open, so you can download this data from the website. So this, as a nuclear medicine as an open platform, nuclear medicine customer is a clinician. So we, as a nuclear medicine physician, we need to know about this new platform work, and we need to know of our data and the analysis of the data, big data, include the artificial intelligence. And this is a hype cycle of the nuclear medicine and related technology. This is emerging fields and downstream, and after that, the technology are matured after the innovation. So, why we know deep learning and big data is something based on this idea. Actually, high-end IT technology covers all over the world. IT technology, smartphone is very widely used in all over the country, even in the Africa. However, high-end healthcare technology are limited in a few countries. So deep learning and artificial intelligence are easily developed by all other countries, even in Africa. So deep learning in medicine for all patients in the world are needed, and I think some nuclear medicine technologies specialized for in your countries uh, uh, should use such kind of techniques. So, as a next topic, I'll share some how deep learning affects nuclear medicine. Actually, current medical students learn these types of the histology data. Maybe you previously learned these types of the H&E scanning and maybe H&E staining, and maybe you learned these types of the cells are related to cancer, and maybe this was very difficult. However, all of the things will be changing.
There's no cancer treated without understanding what the pathology is.
The tissue slides that pathologists use to diagnose cancer contain a vast amount of information. It's very time-consuming, very fatiguing.
Every cell needs to be examined. Sometimes cancer is very difficult to recognize.
We had the idea for the microscope project about a year ago. It brings augmented reality into an existing microscope to detect cancers in real time. We're bringing AI directly to the user and meeting them where they are right now.
I think this is going to enable almost all pathologists to have access to machine learning.
Just a few weeks ago, we got it working end-to-end.
It has a camera, so it's seeing the same thing I'm seeing. Information is being fed into a computer, which is doing billions of calculations and telling me that's the tumor, that's not the tumor.
Right now, it detects breast cancer and prostate cancer, but it could also work on any other cancer type that we train on.
So this presentation was presented by Google in AACR, which is one of the biggest conferences in oncology last year. And they shows their new technology related to microscopy. They incorporated their artificial intelligence algorithm to the microscopy, and they shows the abnormal malignant lesions by the microscopy very easily. So these types of the concept can reduce the time for the pathologist. So this is very innovative. So maybe many medical students in this era didn't need to learn all of the things like this H&E slide and other types of the pathology or histology. And furthermore, we always report these types of the sentences by reading this radiology or nuclear medicine images. However, around 3 or 4 years ago, already deep learning technologies have been developed. Some deep learning technologies easily identify these images, and they can generate some sentences which describe these images. So this kind of interpretation and image reading are easily translatable using this deep learning model. And furthermore, current surgeons uses some robotic surgeries. However, some AlphaGo or other types of artificial intelligence system uses reinforcement learning. This is the learning from the some types of algorithm which can change their motion or change their strategy. So this is one of the example of the reinforcement learning, and you can imagine that.
Writing's not that easy, but Grammarly can help. This sentence is grammatically correct.
this is DeepMind deep learning, which is reinforcement learning, and we can imagine that these types of technologies can apply to the surgeon, and this is related to automatic surgeon or automatic clinical decision. This is well-known game. And the first time they cannot do well as human. However, the start running, it plays like a human, expert human. But even more, they become a magic. Maybe if you are familiar with these types of game, there is a solution. Which one is make a tunnel, and this deep learning algorithm run these types of tunnel. So this kind of technology can affect to these types of surgeon or other types of the clinical decisions. And recent papers also published these types of the reinforcement learning to the sepsis management. Okay, so some deep learning researchers represented by some Geoffrey Hinton, which is one of the guru of the deep learning technology, says that people should stop training radiologists now. 2 years ago, however, they changed their words 2 years later. Anyway, many things are changed recently. And after the 2017 radiology conference, one of the biggest radiology conference, the RSNA, said that many participants says that we cannot differentiate the RSNA conference or radiology conference or deep learning conference. So they have some they synthesize some jokes like deep learning killed the radiology star. So as I mentioned, this is a new technology for the skin lesion detection, and this is the deep learning technology to differentiate the diabetic retinopathy. And some researchers in India, they developed some deep learning for identifying the critical findings in the head and neck CT. This is the Cure AI is a startup in India, and they published this paper in the Lancet last year. So this AI technology are open. So if you want to participate in these types of research, then you can use your data, because in your country have many data, and your data are very special because the disease instances are different from the Korea or Japan or the USA. So you can find your purposes to use your deep learning model. And many deep learning startups approved their new algorithms in the FDA, US FDA. And many papers depend on the supervised learning, which is the learn from the data and the label. And many papers shows many papers insist that their model are equivalent or superior to the radiologist or nuclear medicine specialist, or sometimes experts such as ophthalmologists. This is the paper related to chest X-ray recognition, and they show that their performance was equivalent or superior to the radiologist. And there are some interesting papers. This is published on the last year, Nature Medicine, named Deep Gestalt, which is a deep learning model which predicts the genetic disorder from the face. So these techniques can change many things, because these face recognition techniques to predict the genetic disorder, they quantify the probability of the genetic disorder from the face. So this can be a new biomarker to identify the genetic disorders. So I also applied this deep learning model to the PET data or nuclear medicine spectrum or other types of general image data. And this is my first model to use the deep learning model. This is the model to differentiate the Alzheimer's disease from the normal control using the FDG and amyloid PET, which was successfully differentiate the Alzheimer's disease from the normal control with the state-of-the-art performance. And some other application was applied to the FDG PET data to predict the cognitive function. And this is the website ID, and I developed some web application with the online demo. So if you have some FDG PET data and upload your PET data, then you can find some likelihood of the Alzheimer's disease and the predicted MMSE score from your data. So this is another application I developed using the dopamine transporter imaging, which is a DOT-scan FPCI SPECT using the public data, PPMI, which is similar with the ADNI data. So as you know, dopamine transporter imaging are normal dopamine transporter is decreased for the Parkinson's disease or other types of Parkinsonism patients. So we should differentiate whether this dopamine transporter is decreased or not. And the gold standard of the decision depends on the visual analysis. However, visual analysis have some limitation in the interpersonal interlayer variability. So I developed a deep learning model using the Parkinson's disease dopamine transporter imaging of the Parkinson's disease and normal. And this is the RC curve of the Parkinson's disease PDNet. This is the deep learning model, and it reaches almost 1. And reader 1 was me, and it was lower than the area under curve was lower than this deep learning model. And one of the clinically meaningful results was the application to the sweat, scans without evidence of the dopamine deficit. As you know, sweat is a special category of the Parkinson's disease. Around 10 or 15% of Parkinson's disease shows normal dopamine transporter. However, they are clinically Parkinson's disease. However, according to our analysis, some sweat patients was abnormal according to the deep learning model. And these deep learning based abnormal sweat patients are changing their diagnosis after 2 years. So I insist that this deep learning model can redefine the sweat diagnosis because it's more sensitive than human visual recognition. And there are several types of web applications for the deep learning model, and this is one of the startup in the Korea unit, and they developed their application to the X-ray deep learning model for the X-ray analysis, and you can access this web application from this website. So if you have some chest X-ray images, then you can upload your images. Then this deep learning algorithm analyze your chest X-ray data for tuberculosis or lung cancer or pneumothorax. And this is another application for the skin lesion developed by a Korean dermatologist. And this is a application website. If you can upload your skin lesions from this data, and you can use this web application using your smartphone. So these types of the web application and other types of deep learning models are based on the supervised learning from the specialized data set. And recently, many other applications exist in the deep learning models. One of the most numbers of the papers are related to medical image segmentation. And recently, for automatic medical image segmentation, is deep learning has the state of the art for all of the segmentation concepts, such as tumor segmentation or liver or brain segmentation. And another application is image enhancement, which is related to super resolution. This is one of the example of the super resolution. This is the low resolution image, and this is the real image. This is the real image, and these images are recovered by these images using the supervised learning. And as you can see here, this images are very similar to these images. So we will deal with these types of super resolution 2 weeks later. And these types of super resolution is applied to the city or path, because low dose city or low dose path has a very low quality of the imaging. So these types of the super resolution technologies can recover these images. This is a low resolution city images, and this is recovered image using deep learning. And this is low dose path, and this is low dose path with the deep learning model. And some researchers suggest that this deep learning model can recover the path images more than 200 times low dose path images. And image reconstruction and image enhancement is another area of the deep learning application. And as I mentioned before, image generation is another good application of the deep learning model. And this is another. This is previous slide. All of the faces are pseudo faces. And as I mentioned before, these path images are generated. These MR images are generated from the path images. So you can access this data to use chest X-ray imaging or FD-PET for predicting the cognitive dysfunction. And I think the deep learning model should be developed for individual clinical situation, because some disease incidents are completely different from here and in your country and USA. So, for example, for Korea, tuberculosis is very common than Europe or USA. So I think on screening purpose for the tuberculosis is one of the good application for the deep learning application. And for nuclear medicine imaging, recently bone scan is one of the most common scintigraphic image in the Korea. So I think bone scan is another good application for the deep learning model. And I think in your country you have some specialized scintigraphic images, such as linear scan or thyroid disease, and you can develop your models according to your individual clinical situation. So we need to develop what we need. So maybe previously I mailed you some practical tutorials from the links like this, and you can access some Google Colab in your laptop or in your computer. So I show some basic Python, and in the next week I will deal with some deep learning algorithms using this Colab platform. So maybe in the Dropbox link you can download some data, such as this file. Maybe the file is IPYNB file, which is the Python code. So you can upload your data from this Google Colab. Okay. You can find several types of the practical tutorials in here, and today I will deal with basic Python. You can download it here. Upload this Python code. And here is some basic Python tutorial. Python is a language, computer language, but it's not difficult because it's very intuitive. So there are some codes in here, so you can run this script using the Shift plus Enter. So let's take a look at this basic Python tutorial. So this line will be printed, and this code will be run. Okay, so for Python, there are type variables, you should define the variables. For example, this my int is a variable which deals with the integer. So we can define my variable like this and print. You can find the result. And if you want to define the float, then just put your number like this. Okay, so you can deal with some string, some words such as hello or other types of words using the quote or double quote. Okay, the results are same. And I think Python is a very simple calculator. So you can define these two integer like this, and this is some calculation, simple calculation. And string also have some calculation like this. So you can upload your Python code to this Google Colab and you can run this in your laptop. Okay, so this is another types of the variable which they list, which deals with several types of the numbers or several types of strings in here. And basic operation is very simple thing. 1 plus, this is very simple calculation. And scared is expressed like this. Okay, so this is the calculation for the string. And you can use this star as times of the strings. And for list operation, you can combine these two lists like this plus operator, and also you can generate some new lists using these operators. And this is the basic of the Python code for the condition using the if. So you can define some string like this, and if this is true and this is true, print this thing. And this or then print this thing. So if we run this thing, okay, these two sentences are printed. And this in operator is related to the condition of the condition. If this condition are in this list, then print this thing. It's very simple. And another condition language is use else. So if x is 2 and if x is 2, then print this thing, and or not. Okay, so it's very simple. If x is 3 and x does not equal to 2. So another important thing is loop. This is the learn these things using the iteration. So this is a list of the numbers, and for prime in primes means firstly prime is 2, and at next time prime is 3, and next time prime is 5, and next time prime is 7. So this course will print this 2, 3, 5, and 7 like this. So these types of the loop language can generate several types of the calculations like this. And this is the definition of the function. So if we can define some specialized function like this, so this is definition of my function, and print this thing, and there is no outputs. Okay, so I will define 3 types of the functions and use this function like this. My function is print this thing, and second function is some types of arguments such as name and some expression. Okay, so username will be in here and greetings will be in here. And third thing is the sum of the 2 words function. A and B in arguments are A and B, and returns A plus B. So these things will generate some outputs. Okay, the last thing is the NumPy array. It's a package of the Python, and you can call this NumPy packages from like this word. This is packages for to deal with some arrays or metrics. So you can define such kinds of list. Then we change this list to the matrix. And you can calculate several types of the variables using this NumPy array. So this is the 6 data and 6 real data. We can easily calculate the BMI just using some easy operators. And we can subset these types of the arrays. We can select some patients more than 25 of the BMI like this. So array will be true, false. And can output some BMI of the BMI higher than 23. So this is the basic Python code. You can download this notebook data and you can upload your Google IDs using the Google Colab, and you can practice your data in here. And next week I will deal with some deep learning algorithms using this Colab platform. Okay, so next week I will introduce some basics of the deep learning, and some practice will be, I will deal with some practice using MNIST, handwriting data, digit data. So do you have any questions? Okay. Alzheimer, yeah. Sorry. You mean is it validated in the clinical situation? Maybe, yeah. Actually, first there are two papers. First paper was developed using the ADNI data, and my application was to mild cognitive impairment patients to predict the cognitive dysfunction after the 2 or 3 years later. And actually, this algorithm was not validated in other data from the ADN database. However, this another paper using the FDG path was developed from the ADN data and validated in other codes in this house, not in this hospital, Seoul Borame Hospital, Metropolitan Hospital. And this data was validated in the Parkinson's disease patients to differentiate the cognitive dysfunction in the Parkinson's disease patients. So this model has this model was validated in 2 cohorts: MCI patients in ADN data and Parkinson's disease in Korea, Seoul National University Hospital data. So actually, it's not validated in the general population. So it cannot use for all types of the patients, including other types of neurodegenerative disorders or some general population. However, I think it can provide some information about the cognitive dysfunction related FDG patterns. So I think it should be validated in the general population.
The quality of teaching high resolution.
Yeah, that's very important problem.
There's low resolution.
Yeah, actually, I tested several types of the PET, but it generates good result, I think. Because usually we apply the Gaussian filter for the brain PET, so they have some similar resolution. I think this model can apply to FDG pet data regardless of the pet machines. But I think it should be validated in several types of the machine. Sorry? Mhm. Oh, actually, it's not difficult. In these days, the, the platform is very easy to use. So if you actually at the first time, the Python language is somewhat difficult for physicians. However, if you are familiar with the Python or other types of the languages such as R or MATLAB, then you can easily use such platform, TensorFlow or other types of the deep learning algorithms. And it's not difficult. It's very easy. And next week and 2 weeks later, you will see how I can develop these types of the models.
You mean person is understand program like MATLAB is enough.
Yeah, if you are familiar with R, MATLAB, or Python, then it's not that difficult. It's very easy. It's very to use the deep learning model, and just some few knowledge is needed to develop your model. But there are some sophisticated things to maximize the performance. However, I think it's the next problem. It's the problem of the computer scientists. For the physicians and some specialists for their domain, they just define their problem and they apply the deep learning model to solve their problem, not to maximize the performance of the diagnosis or prognosis. So the important thing is to generate the problem, such as the yeah.
Radiology has the idea to replace
I but I don't think so. I don't think so because there are deep learning cannot solve all of the things because deep learning is just a statistical learning. So it's based on the statistical thing. One of the biggest problem is the performance of deep learning model is just measured on some specialized data set. So as I mentioned before, this model cannot apply to the general PET scans because it's just validated in the mild cognitive impairment patient cohort and Parkinson's disease cohort. That's all. We need prospective trials to use this model. And that's why FDA approved the AI algorithms to the clinical practice.
startup.
Mhm.
We are a startup
Yeah.
in vaccine at the state.
Okay. Do you have any questions? Okay. And okay. See you next week. Thank you very much.